Welcome, everybody, to the No-Huddle Show, episode number 42. I'm Mark Eckel. I'm joined by Elliot Shore-Parks. We cover the Eagles for NJ.com. Joe Giglio, who's usually with us, is on vacation this week, so it's just you and I, Elliot.
What's crazy is I was writing an article last night, and they've already had like 13 or something practices. I feel like camp is flying by. Like did we do a podcast since training camp started before? So this is the first one, so there's definitely a ton to talk about.
But we are being joined today, Elliot, by a very special guest, the voice of the Eagles. He's been doing this for 40 years. 40 years, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, that's 12 years longer than I was born.
I was going to say, I don't even want to know where you were, because you weren't anywhere. And that's, of course, Merrill Reese, the Eagles play-by-play guy. He's a fascinating guy. But like I said, I think, without a doubt, he's the longest tenured radio broadcaster in the NFL. And I'm kind of thinking, other than Vince Scully, he might be the second longest in any sport. We'll have to ask him that. I'm sure he would be aware of that. But let me ask you first, before we bring Merle on. Camp's been going on, like you said, now for 13 days. What's been your biggest takeaway from what we've seen so far?
So one of my takeaways, if we were to recorded this a few days earlier, one of my takeaways would have been how physical this team is. And in some ways, I still think that's the case. I've noticed that the practices, and we've commented on this, the practices are far more competitive and intense than they were under Chip. Now, I don't know if they're learning as much. I don't know what the results will be. But just in terms of intensity and being physical, I think this team has been, in training camp, they've shown more of that than they did last year under Chip. But now they're not hitting anymore. So I don't know how that's going to impact it. Peterson spoke on Tuesday and said that he wasn't cutting the hitting out because of Jordan Matthews and Zach Ertz's injury, but he also said on Monday that one of the reasons he's doing it is because he's got to protect the guys on the field. So, just kind of another example of Peterson saying one thing and doing another and explaining it a different way and, all that. My other takeaway before you get to yours would just be, I was more optimistic about the playmakers on this offense than you were. I think we both agree that there's, some playmakers on defense. Although actually, I don't know if you think that, but I think there's more. I think there's more playmakers on defense than there was on offense.
Agree with that.
Yeah, but I just think on offense, Jordan Matthews is now hurt. We'll see. I don't think he'll play this preseason. And then you're talking about him coming back week one, how he's going to be. Outside Jordan Matthews, I guess you have Zach Ertz. You don't really have any playmakers at running back. Darren Sproles is probably the closest thing they have, but he's not a every down type of back. The receivers have been not terrible, but they haven't really shown anything to make me think that they're going to be better than they were last year. And then, we all know Sam Bradford, outside of being the best quarterback ever, probably isn't a guy that's going to be able to make the people around him better. So the offense, my biggest takeaway, I guess, would be from the first week and a half, 2 weeks of camp is this offense is going to be really bad.
I kind of agree. I'll touch on that. You brought up the differences in practice between the 3 years we had Chip Kelly here and now the first year of Doug Peterson, which is kind of an extension of the Andy Reid era in a lot of ways. Yeah, it is more physical without a doubt. It couldn't be any less physical. Chip's wasn't physical at all, so
right.
Anybody would have been more physical. But it's also, do you find it more like boring? Like Chip's say what you want about up tempo. It kept us. I was intrigued, and things never stopped. There's a lot of stopping and standing around and nothing.
Right.
Right. Am I wrong there?
I will say that definitely there's larger portions of the practice where if you are taking notes or arguing about stuff with Merrill Reese, which we'll do in a little bit and do on the sideline almost every day, but you're not really missing much. But I do think the team sessions where they're doing live hitting and they're, doing full 11 on 11. I think those are more interesting than they were under Chip.
Okay, I'll give you that. But I'm saying that just the 3 hours are out there overall, sometimes.
I agree overall. It's way slower.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah, we'll see. That's the thing. Like, as Peterson has said, the way he's doing it is how Andy Reid did it. So, unless Jim Johnson's coming to coach a defense, I don't know if he'll get the same results, but he believes that this is a way to build a winner. Right. And it's not like Andy Reid's only the coach. I've only ever covered the Eagles, as have you actually, but you've probably been to other training camp practices where I have not. I would imagine the majority of football practices are like this. I'm just jaded because when I came in, really, I saw a little bit of Andy Reid, but I was mostly Chip. So I only really knew it one way. So for me, it really seems slow. Because I've never seen so much. I don't want to say time wasted, but we're talking 3 or 4 minutes in between the first team offense and the second team offense coming in. Like with Chip, it was, two fields, one work from the other. Like it was no time wasted. As Chip used to say, he believes in efficiency. So Peterson, I'm not saying he doesn't believe in efficiency, but I think he believes in definitely taking a little slower and making sure things get corrected on the field as opposed to in the meeting rooms.
And Andy was like that too. And if you remember, when Andy got here, no one knew anything about Andy Reid. He was a quarterback coach in Green Bay. I mean, so yeah. He never ran a team before either. And I'm trying to think back, if I remember, we thought his practices were a little slower than Ray Rhodes's. Like Ray wasn't Chip Kelly. It wasn't quite that up tempo. Nothing's like that tempo. But Ray's there wasn't as much standing around. Co-type before Ray was slow. Ray picked it up a bit. There was always guys doing something, it seemed. I thought Ray Rhodes ran a very good training camp. Say what you want about Ray Rhodes, it's good and bad head coach, but I thought his training camps were very well organized and very well run. And if you talk to the players that played for Ray, I think they would agree. And Andy, like I said, and again, every coach has their own style, and there's no right or wrong. And the right or wrong comes out with how the team does. Let me ask you this: Give me a player that you've been pleasantly surprised with, and a player that you've been a little disappointed in. And again, just from watching practice.
Right.
Practice,
so I
put a lot of stock in it, but just from what we've seen in 2 weeks.
Right. I mean, I think the pretty clear one for me that I've been impressed with is Jalen Mills. I think you can make the argument he's been the best quarterback in camp, even among the starters. He's got 2 interceptions in team settings, which I'm pretty sure is the most among the defensive backs. McLeod might be up there, but I mean, Mills is definitely, he's always around the ball. There's very few times you see him get beat. I think it was either Saturday or Sunday of this past weekend. He had a rough day against Ruben Randall, but I mean, I just think he's been everything the team could really ask from him. So that's been one player that has impressed me. And I would say the player that hasn't disappointed me, but just hasn't been kind of what I expect and what fans expect is probably Michael Kendricks. I think everyone knew he struggled in coverage, but the quotes from Billy Davis and the Paul Domowitch article I think it brought it to the forefront. And ever since then, I've really noticed much more in practice how often he's getting beat. I don't know if it's because I know he's always struggled in it, but now he's a little heavier than he used to be, and it's muscle. I mean, he put on weight on purpose, not like he came in out of shape, but that's probably not going to help him in coverage. So I think
he looks like Brandon Graham.
Yeah, he looks like Brandon Graham, exactly. I mean, yeah.
Not in a bad way, Brandon Graham, but Brandon Graham's a defensive end.
Yeah, Brandon Graham is also he's like Brandon Graham's a short, stout defensive end.
Right.
It's not like he's like a Jason Pierre-Paul type of body. So yeah, I mean, I would say Kendricks is probably the guy that at the beginning of training camp. You know what? And then I know we got to get to Merrill, so I want to, but I would say Jason Peters too, because I was more optimistic about him than you were, and he's been a complete disappointment. He's not practicing. He just doesn't look. I would say, yeah, he's probably
years old, man.
Kendricks.
Yeah, my surprise is going to be the guy you mentioned who beat the guy that you mentioned, and that's Randall. I mean, maybe because I follow the Giants somewhat close as well, and I love our coverage of the Giants with James and now Dan, and Giant fans in particular, and even the guys that cover the Giants and Giants. I didn't hear much good about Ruben Randall when the Eagles signed him. It was like, oh yeah, big deal, you got Ruben Randall, and his contract said the same thing. He signed a 1-year deal for a little like $1 million. I mean, so I was not expecting a whole lot from him. I think he's been their best wide receiver day in and day out, especially now with Matthews hurt. I mean, he catches almost everything his way. He's made some really tough catches. He's not afraid to go over the middle and make a catch in traffic. All the bad things I've heard about him, I haven't seen. I've only seen good. Now again, it's practice. So when the games start and you're playing, it could be different. But I'm going to say he's my biggest surprise in a good way. Disappointment, I got to put it on the rookie, Isaac Sumalo, who you're a 3rd-round pick at guard. You should be in the conversation for a starting job. You should be. I mean, it's not like Alan Barber is a Pro Bowl player by any means, or even Brandon Brooks gets hurt and they put Wisniewski out there. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think this kid's going to do a damn thing all year. I think he's just going to be it's a redshirt year for him, and I don't think the Eagles could have afforded to waste a 3rd-round pick on a guy that's not going to, especially when your first round pick's not going to play either.
Yeah, and you're probably, neither of you. I mean, Wendell Smallwood maybe, although he's been hurt.
He's been hurt.
I mean, really, Jalen Mills could end up this year at least being the saving grace of this draft class because they might not get anything from, like you said, Samalu probably not. Vaitai, the offensive lineman, probably won't play. Smallwood, I'm starting to think might be a non-factor. McAllister might not make the team. Joe Walker is going to be a backup linebacker. So, I mean, they're not going to get a ton from their rookie class this year.
So Mills, Mills. Oh, you're right. Mills is definitely the rookie showing the most immediate impact. But why don't we go to Merrill? All right, joining us now is a man that I've had the pleasure of knowing for over 30 years now, and was flattered that he asked me to write his autobiography. It's good, and Merrill, I think it's almost time to bring out a sequel. I think we could call it "It's Still Good," or maybe it's even better. But Merrill Reese, the Eagles. Thanks for joining us, Merrill.
I think we have some chapters to go over, like that revised copy that Bobby Hoying really wasn't that good.
Yeah, maybe we could change some of those things around a little bit. So, Merrill, this is the 40th year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Doesn't seem it, but it is actually. It is.
Did you ever? I mean, and I know you love what you do more than most anyone I know, but can you believe that you've been doing this for 40 years?
I can't. I really, really can't. If you asked me at the very beginning would I like to still be doing it 40 years later, I would have said yes, because there's nothing I would rather do. And I've had the opportunity over the years to go to some of the television networks. But this is the ultimate job. This is the thing that is the most fun for me. And I have no intention of giving it up anytime soon, God willing.
Well, I know we end the book with you saying if you ever read that Merrill Reese retired, it's a lie. Because you're not
right. It would be a lie.
They would have to take you kicking and screaming out of the booth.
Absolutely.
Merrill, is there one game? I mean, over the 40 years, obviously, there's been a ton. I mean, I think of like Miracle at the Medical Lands #2 and stuff. But is there one game that really sticks out to you?
There are several, Elliot, but the one that sticks out the most, and a lot of people think I go back to the Miracle of the Meadowlands, the game of the Dallas Cowboys in 1981 that put them in the Super Bowl. To me, the game that still is my favorite after all these years was December 19, 2010, when they trailed the Giants 31-10, and I still think that was the best quarterback performance I ever saw when Michael Vick led them back, and of course the walk-off punt return by Deshaun Jackson. But that is my favorite game.
Really, Merle? How about that?
Honest, it is. It really is.
See, then we have to revise the book. That's another reason to do the book again, because that came out after the book. That happened after.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Okay.
But that game had more drama to it than any game I've ever done, and just the way it ended, it was amazing. And Vic just totally took that game in his own hands, whether it was passing or running or just finding a way to win. And then, of course, Deshaun put the capper on it.
So, Merle, let's bring it now to this year. New head coach with Doug Peterson in charge, a different look roster. Are you excited about this team? Because it seems like the level of excitement from fans is a little bit lukewarm right now. I don't know if they're just hesitant over the changes. What's your feelings going into the 2016 season?
I am very excited. I know the team has its limitations. I know it has its weak areas. But I just think that the NFC East is that way throughout. I think the Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys all have major question marks. And so does this team. So I believe that if they stay relatively healthy, I think this team can be competitive in terms of the division, and that's all you could hope for this year. I think that Sam Bradford right now is playing very, very well. I think he looks sharp. He's coming off of an off season where he didn't have to rehab for a change. He just conditioned himself, and I think that this offense will be better suited for his skill set.
So, Merrill, I remember me, you, and Mark standing on the sideline back in OTAs kind of debating about this team, and I know since training camp started, for me at least, my expectations have gone down. I think the offense, I know you said Sam Bradford looks sharp, and he's probably been the best quarterback, but I just don't see a lot of playmakers on offense. So I was just curious, and me and Mark were talking about this a little earlier on the podcast. Since training camp started, has your expectations gone up or down, and what's kind of stood out to you to maybe make you think they will be competitive?
Well, my expectations have actually gone up. I mean, I entered the season going into training camp with being optimistic because I think that's my nature. But I wasn't predicting titles. I wasn't predicting 13 wins or anything like that. But I just thought that this could be a pretty decent team. And I think the offensive line will be better than the offensive line a year ago, which was awful. Now, we don't know. Here's Jason Peters, who's been nicked already. But again, I think Jason Peters is going to benefit from an offense where he doesn't have to hustle back to the line of scrimmage and go at that kind of a speed. He's a key. I think they've bolstered themselves. I think Brandon Brooks is a very good addition. I think Stefan Wisniewski is going to help them if in no other way in the depth department. So I think the offensive line will be better, and that's a big thing. I think the defense is going to be better. However, it's a thin linebacking core, and it's a linebacking core and maybe an entire defense that is going to depend on one man to stay healthy, and that's Jordan Hicks. Because if they lose Jordan Hicks, that will have a snowballing effect. Some pins will fall over, and it will have a chain reaction. But he's a key. And I know when I talk about the optimism, I know it is an optimism based on good health in key areas. But I think you can make that same case in Dallas, where without Tony Romo, they're in deep trouble. And without Eli Manning, but of course Eli Manning never seems to get hurt. But every team has its areas that they've got to be concerned with.
Well, you bring up Sam Bradford, and I know you like Bradford. You think Sam Bradford's and I don't hate him. But let me ask you, what did you think of them bringing him back and then drafting Wentz? Were you okay with the way that all kind of with the way things all played out, and also adding to the mix as well?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't think I don't see how they could have realistically envisioned themselves getting up to the number 2 spot in the draft. I thought that the perfect storm had to happen. I mean, how they got the Dolphins to give up the 7th pick in the draft in exchange for their 13th for Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell was a miracle. And then, of course, suddenly Cleveland and Hugh Jackson decided that RG3 was their answer, and then you could trade up to that 2nd spot. But all of those things occurred before they re-signed Sam and brought in Chase Daniel. So I think once you were in that, you could move to that 2nd spot. See, I like Carson Wentz a lot. I think he's the total package. We'll find out beginning Thursday night just how far he is from actually being ready to be a starter in the NFL. But he's got the prototypical size that you look for. He's got the strength. He's got the big arm. He seems to have leadership ability. The guys like him. He's intelligent. I think there are so many pluses there. So long range, I think they made the move. If you can get somebody who can be a franchise quarterback, you get them. And they had the opportunity to do that. And I think they were right in doing it because as much as I respect Sam Bradford and as much as I would like to see Sam Bradford have his season of seasons, the MO on Sam Bradford so far in his career is that he isn't durable.
See, here's my only problem, and I agree with everything that you just said, especially about Carson Wentz. My only thing was I thought the Eagles had to make a decision in their mind, even before they moved up, whatever. They had to ask themselves, is Sam Bradford the guy? Can Sam Bradford take us to a Super Bowl? If the answer was yes, then by all means keep him and build around him. Give him the weapons that he needs. Give him a better offensive line. Help his defense. Do whatever you can. If you believe Bradford's the guy, then keep him and give him help. If the answer to that question is no, Bradford's not the guy. He's just a guy. Then move on from him, and don't waste 30. How much money they're paying him for 2 years? $36 million, and use that money to get other better players. I just think they spent a lot of money on Bradford and they spent a lot of resources on Wentz, and that's why they don't have depth, and that's why they have questions in a lot of other areas. That's just my take. I wouldn't have done both.
And I understand what you're saying, but I think they also believe that they can be competitive while they're doing this thing, that they don't have to break it down and throw a rookie quarterback out there and go 2-14. And I think that's why they said that when they re-signed Brent Selleck. If you're going to do, if it's all going to be the future, and we're going to wait for Wentz, why re-sign the older players on this team? But yes, I think they look at the division and think they can win the division this year.
Yeah, I don't know if that's realistic, though, Merrill. I mean, I agree with you. I know what you're saying, that I think that, if Tony Romo goes down, then yes, the Eagles have a chance. I think the Giants are going to be better. We'll see. But I don't know. Just looking at this team, I just think I look at it this way. You're not going to make the playoffs with Sam Bradford. So what's the benefit? What's the difference between winning, 6 games and 8 games? I just think, maybe you put or you give Carson Wentz more of a chance earlier on in the season. I just think the Bradford thing complicates Wentz's path to the starting job a little bit more. And like you said, I think Carson Wentz is the total package. And, I honestly believe that by getting Carson Wentz, this franchise really changed their outlook for the next, whatever many years. But I don't know. I just think having Bradford here kind of complicates things, and why take that risk with Wentz?
I don't think it's complicated things in the locker room, because I think Sam Bradford is a professional, and I think he conducts himself well, and he's liked by his teammates. So He's not causing any problems. And I agree with you. I don't think there's a difference between winning 6 games and winning 8 games, except you get a worse draft pick. But I think this team can win the division. And it's not just Tony Romo. Every team has their question marks. Yeah, are the Giants going to be better? Maybe. I don't know. The Eagles beat them twice last year. So I don't know how much better the Giants are going to be. I think the Eagles are going to be better. I mean, keep in mind, the Eagles went into their 15th game last year against the Washington Redskins with a chance to go to the playoffs. I mean, all they had to do was basically beat the Redskins in that game, and they're practically in. And, of course, they beat the Giants the last week. And they didn't. They looked as poorly prepared for Week 15 as they did for the first week in Atlanta. That offensive line in the 15th week was jumping off sides, illegal formations. They were still a mess. So I just think this team can be better than that team. And if that's the case, they're going to be in the race until very late. And I agree with you. If they are mathematically out or realistically out, then it's Carson Wentz time.
See, and I think the one area I might disagree with you on is, so I agree the roster does have more talent, I think, than my record. I think they're going to win, 5 or 6 games, but I think that the roster is more talented than that. But I just have my question marks about Doug Peterson. So I'm just interested in what you thought of Peterson so far, mostly in training camp, but I guess overall since he's been hired.
Well, I'm prejudiced to begin with. I want to put that out there because I like Doug. I've known Doug for 16 years, and I get along with him extremely well, and he communicates with me, and I just like him a lot as an individual. And I don't think whether it's Doug Peterson or the Giants' new genius or any coach coming in that you can, the gaze in Miami, I don't think there's any way to judge a coach until you see him under game conditions. And I don't mean a preseason game. I mean, you have to watch a coach, and certainly they're going to make mistakes, especially early in their head coaching career. But I remain with an open mind. I think that Doug is authoritative. I think that Doug communicates well with his players. I think that Doug communicates well with his coaches, and I'm willing to wait and see. But I can't predict at this point. I wouldn't say any coach coming in is going to be a great head coach. I thought initially, I'm going to be very honest with you, when they first hired Chip Kelly, that first year, I was enthralled. I thought, oh, my gosh, they've got the coach that will one day take this team to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I was way off. I was less convinced. What?
I'm not sure you were. I think if given the right – I think if circumstances were different, this whole thing could have worked out well with Chip Kelly as head coach. He didn't have to be in charge of personnel. The day they fired Tom Gamble was the beginning of the end. That's just my opinion.
Well, I like Tom Gamble. I think Tom Gamble's a very, very good personnel man, and maybe that will work in San Francisco. But I thought that I agreed that the trajectory of this team was going down. And when people say, well, they won 10 games their first 2 seasons, but look at this team from Thanksgiving Day 2014 until the end of Chip Kelly's tenure. I mean, I knew I would have bet anybody in the world that the Eagles were done with Chip Kelly on Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. I mean, that was absolutely a total national embarrassment. I said to myself, there's no way that he – the what?
Talk about 2 different Thanksgivings, right? I mean,
oh my,
Thanksgiving 2014 was one of the best games the Eagles have played in years.
Absolutely. No, 13.
A good Dallas team apart. That was a good Dallas team that they took apart that.
Yeah, day. Yeah. The 14 was great. 14 was terrific, and that was beyond.
It wasn't that good.
Oh, I mean, I actually said on the air with 7 minutes to go in the game, I said the thing I'm most thankful for on this day is that there are only 7 minutes left in this game. I mean, that was an unmitigated disaster. That was a disgrace. And I got on the bus and I said to Mike Mayock, who was on that bus too. He was doing the game, I think, for Westwood. I said, Mike, it's over. No, it wasn't Westwood. It was Ross Tucker. Ross Tucker was doing the game, and I said to Ross Tucker, I said, it's over. I mean, they're not going to continue. There's going to be a coaching change. You could sense it right there that this team was a disaster.
Hey, guys, I just got a little bit of breaking news for us. We can throw this. It doesn't involve the Eagles, but in a sense it does. Apparently the Rams have announced that Case Keenum will be their regular season opening day quarterback, not Jared Goff.
So they're following the same path.
Interesting.
Yeah, following the same. And I will say,
yes and no, though, Elliot. I mean, say what you want about Sam Bradford. I mean, he is a veteran. He's been around. He was a number 1 pick at one time himself. For Wentz to beat Bradford out I think a lot of Rams fans probably thought Goff was going to beat out Case Keenum.
See, I thought that's why they took Goff.
Yeah.
I was worried that when the Eagles were in that second spot, I was only worried that the Rams would have a change of heart and choose Wentz, because I really think that Wentz is the real thing. I'm not as impressed with Goff. But the word about Goff was that Goff was really ready, much more ready to play, much more experienced, that you could plug him in and he wouldn't have he wouldn't have the upside of Wentz, but he would have a shorter adjustment period. And they're going to a new city and they have the California quarterback, and it all figured that he was going to be the starter. He must not be doing well out there.
Obviously, that's what I'm saying.
What do you think of Wentz so far? Because I agree. I mean, it sounds like me and you're on the same page in terms of really liking Wentz for the future. Going into camp, I don't want to say I don't think he's looked good, but I think he's looked much more like a rookie than I thought. But I think he makes one play a day, and you're at practice every day. He makes one play a day where it just really opens your eyes to potential he has. But just in practice and stuff, what has been your general take from Wentz?
I think the same as yours, in that he has a lot to learn, but he has the physical ability, and I think he has the mental capacity to fit into that role. I think he's very Roethlisberger-like in stature. I think he's got the great arm. I think he's learning. I think he's a bright kid, but it's not going to be 1, 2, 3. But you can see that talent every day, but then you can also see every day why they shouldn't rush him.
Exactly. So you agree with because I do agree with this 100%. Give him time. There's no reason to get him in sooner than it. And like you said earlier, yeah, if the season gets whatever happens, and if they're 3-8, then by all means, let's put him in there and get his feet wet, because then next year he's going to kind of like what Andy did with Donovan back in 1999. I forget what the exact record was, but they were clearly out of the race, and Andy pulled Doug Peterson and started Donovan the last whatever many. And actually, Donovan didn't play the last game because he got hurt the next to last game, and I think Ty Detmer went out and played the last game. But Donovan got his feet wet at the end of 1999. Did not play great in 99. He played okay. You saw flashes of what he could do, but he made rookie mistakes like any rookie quarterback would. But then in 2000, he was ready, started from day one, and took the team to the playoffs. I think that would
absolutely.
I think that would be a nice scenario for Carson Wentz to be able to follow. Again, if they're out of the race. If they're in the race, and by all means, you leave Bradford in and try to win something.
No, I would agree with that, and I think that's basically what they're doing, except that Sam Bradford is a lot more capable of winning games than Doug Peterson was back in 1999.
Sure. But my only problem is it was Doug and Donovan, and then Ty. Is Chase Daniel in the way?
I don't think he's in the way because he's not considered to be an heir apparent. He is you hate to say this, but the truth of the matter is he's kind of a player/coach. He's there as much for his ability to help the coaches integrate the system as he is to. Yeah, and plus, let's just say that the Eagles are playing in the second or third game of the season, and Sam Bradford goes down with something minor that's going to keep him out, or suppose he, again, just for argument's sake, has a mild concussion that's going to keep him out for 2 weeks. Chase Daniel can come in and run that offense. He's not going to be able to make the throws that Bradford or Wentz can make, but he can run that offense without mixing things up and making mental mistakes.
All right, Merle, listen, before we let you go, congratulations, 40th year. I hope the Eagles honor you somehow, do something for you. They gotta have a Merrill Reese day, I think. How about that?
You know what? The fact that the Eagles and CBS Radio allow me to go into that booth each week and leave me alone, that's all I want.
That's all you need.
That's why nobody yells at me, and that's good. And I still love broadcasting to these fans because they love this game and they love this team, and when I exude and I'm happy, they feel it, and when I hurt and they hurt, we feel it together. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm not asking for any awards. I'm not asking for any honors. I just keep giving me the key to the broadcast booth, and I'm real happy.
And nothing's changed for you, has it, Merle? I mean, the coaches changed, players changed, owners have changed, every general managers have changed, but you still keep you still keep your same rituals that I know that you have prior to games. And
oh yeah,
everything stays the same for you, right?
Everything stays the same. Absolutely.
That's great. Oh, I got to ask you something.
Except I have to put a little more shoe polish in my hair to keep it dark.
Now, you're the longest tenured NFL broadcaster, correct?
I'm maybe the longest tenured human being.
No, there's been Vin Scully in all of sports.
That's true. That's true.
Are you second to Vin, as far as you know?
Boy, that's a good question because I don't know the other baseball broadcasters, but I mean, don't forget Vince Scully is 60 years in the booth for the Dodgers.
Yeah. This is his last year.
No, he's got one more year. He's coming back next year.
Oh, I thought he was done. I thought he was done at the end of the year. No,
I thought that he agreed. Maybe you're right. But I had thought that he said next year would be his last.
So in 15.
But he's only 89.
Only? That's good. So he's got a couple years on you.
But you know what the funny thing is? The funny thing is my son Nolan, who you know, Mark, will every now and then be speaking to me, and he'll put the phone next to the television set. And Scully does the game by himself without any color analyst. And he sounds the same, and he's still terrific. And he hasn't changed. He's wonderful.
Yeah. That's
amazing.
Well, Merle, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it, and good luck in your 40th year. And I'm sure you're excited for Thursday night to get things going.
Can't wait. And you know what? You guys do a great job. I follow you. You know your football. You come up with breaking stories. Love reading you. And
thanks, Merle.
And now you know I tweet.
Yes, we do. How about that?
Yeah, you got to tweet that hot fire like I do. I know you put those takes out there. I'm looking forward to following them.
4 years ago.
Once the game starts, I'll have an observation or so.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
All
right. Bye-bye.
That was Merrill Reese, the voice of the Eagles for 40. That's a long time, Elliot.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? I got to say, so, we always joke about how I'm younger. I haven't been doing this for so long, but you see so many people in the industry that are, in their 60s, 50s, and you just don't see that motivation from them anymore. Like Merrill is out there every single day of practice for all of practice, moving around with the different, from field to field, watching the drills, and it's just it really is admirable.
And I don't think other radio guys do. I'm almost sure they don't.
Yeah,
I think they might come once a week, twice a week, maybe. Talk to the coach during the Merrill's there every day. I'm almost sure other I don't know that for a fact, and I could be wrong. Maybe there's one other guy in the league that's not the norm.
I'm going to say to be 40 years into a job and still be motivated enough to talk about the backup offensive lineman. That's
right.
Especially on this team. I mean, that's
I've known him for 30, and he's no different now. He really isn't. There's no difference between the guy I met in 1985 and the guy that we just talked to now in 2016. His enthusiasm's the same. His optimism is the same. You could think some guys would be like, I've been doing this for like me. I'm not the same. I was
going to say, speaking of optimism, so I'm going to go ahead and get your notice.
They might win 5 games now.
Yeah. He convinced you up from 4 to 5.
Go 4 to 5 now. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I gotta say it's just funny. Every day we'll talk on the sideline with Merrill, watching you two go at it because he's about as optimistic as can get, and you are, in terms of people that cover the team, are probably the lowest on this team out there. So,
and again, I know when people say that, and I don't want to be. It's not like I come into it.
I just think you're being, I don't even say realistic. It's just your opinion, whereas Merrill is optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, one of my major reasons why I don't think this team is going to do well. There's two major reasons. One is you're bringing in a whole new staff, basically. I mean, or not. I mean, a couple of guys hold it, but a new offense and a new defense. I just think it's going to take time for those systems to gel, to start to work. So I don't expect a quick start to the season. And then the schedule gets brutal. So even if it is starting to gel, you're playing Green Bay and Seattle and Cincinnati. They're tough games. I mean, I don't think they're ready to beat teams like that. Yeah, they could beat the Cowboys and Redskins maybe, but I don't think on their best day, I don't think they could beat Green Bay or Minnesota or Seattle or Cincinnati. And so I think it's a combination of the newness of both sides of the ball combined with what I think is a very, very difficult schedule. I think the NFC North is a very good division, and I think the AFC North is a very good division. So they didn't.
Right.
It's just it's a bad kind of perfect storm, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe they jump out of the gate quickly and everything goes great. But I'm just trying to be realistic.
The two things I'll say, people are going to listen to this podcast and go from the highs of Merrill saying they might make the playoffs. But the two reasons I think this team could really be bad this year is, I'll take it a step further with the head coaching staff than you did. I think Doug Peterson could be a disaster. I mean, I really think this could end up being a major problem. Like, you look at what he's done so far since he's taken the job. I mean, in the owners' meetings, he said maybe Jason Kelce or Jason Pierce could be his left guard, and everyone leaves scratching their head on that. He couldn't figure out how he was going to call plays up until basically today, 2 days before the first game, even though he had all offseason to figure it out. He didn't know the rules about how he could call plays. And then there's this whole thing with the hitting, where one day he says, you can't second guess yourself with hitting. Like, that's how you get beat. And now they're not hitting anymore. So it just, look, he's going to have his rookie mistakes. I'm going into training camp, I was pessimistic. I was skeptical of Doug Peterson, but after watching them for 2 weeks, I really feel like that could be a disaster. And the other reason is this team is thin. And that was something you'd been saying in the offseason, but I didn't really notice until you watch them. But the offensive line is just paper thin, and I think they could potentially spend all season shuffling around that offensive line, because Peters is going to be in and out. Where are you going to move Lane? What are you going to do?
Well, Brandon Brooks brought that up.
Yeah.
Because what do you think? And I wrote about it on Tuesday morning on NJ.com. You can read the story. Who's the Eagles' left tackle? What do you think of him saying Matt Tobin's playing well, and I'm okay? I don't have to move Lane from right to left because I got Matt Tobin to play the left. Is he trying to get Bradford hurt? Is that the plan?
I think that makes zero sense, because first of all, if it's in a game, and maybe in a game you do that because you've had Lane playing right tackle presumably for a while, obviously in his career, but I mean into the regular season. But it's the preseason. I mean, if Lane Johnson, if you're playing during the regular season, let's say, God forbid Jason Peters, tears his ACL week 1, and you're going to have him
the back just keeps acting up on him. He can't play.
But my point is, let's say you think Lane. I don't think something people talk about enough is how hard it was last year for Lane Johnson to bounce back and forth between left and right tackle. I mean, before that Dolphins game, he didn't even know what position he was playing until an hour before the game. So I do think there's something to be said for, at a certain point, you either just got to move Lane to left or you just got to keep him at right if it's only going to be for a game or two. Now, if Peters is gone for the rest of the regular season, then I think you just make the move because Peters is probably never going to play again for you, and you move Lane to left. But in the preseason, why not get Lane some reps at left tackle? I mean, he's your left tackle.
Yes.
I mean,
that's my biggest complaint. When Doug says, "Oh no, I want Lane to be comfortable on the right side," he's played the right side his whole life. He's very comfortable there. He knows how to play right tackle.
Right.
I want him learning how to play left tackle because, let's be honest, if not now, sooner than later, Jason Peters isn't going to be here anymore.
How about this? More games at left tackle this year, Jason Peters or Lane Johnson?
I think according to Peterson, Matt Tobin.
Also, if you're Howie Roseman, can you imagine you give Lane Johnson basically starting left tackle money?
That was my
He's
story.
like the fourth highest paid left tackle in the league, and he's far and away the most highest paid right tackle. And then you put Matt Tobin out there, a guy who we were saying didn't even think would make the team, and you're going to put him out there. So it's just another questionable coaching move by Peterson.
That, to me, that's the biggest one. Forget the play clock and all that. No, I mean, that's just, that to me, not knowing his personnel and thinking that you could put Matt Tobin at left tackle. He said it, and I said, and I followed it up with the question, well, that's for now, but if this was the regular season and Jason couldn't go, you would move Lane, right? And he went, no, Lane, I want Lane on the right. No, Matt's playing great. I almost I held back from saying, are you kidding? Matt Tobin? Are you kidding? He couldn't play guard.
Here's another
the blind side.
Here's another question, bit off topic, but kind of with it. How much do you think Howie Roseman has to do with the decisions that are made in terms of who plays where and who plays and stuff? I mean, do you think he's involved in this? I kind of think so.
Oh my God! Now you're just. I was trying to be nice today. I'm kind of like taking Joe's place as the whole. Now you just want me to rip the team, right?
I mean, what do you think?
To set me up for?
Do you think Howie is involved in that? I don't know the answer, so I'm just.
I hope not, but
wouldn't surprise you, right?
Well, no, Howie would have Lane Johnson at left tackle because, as you said, he just paid him $1 billion to play left. I mean,
yeah, that's
that one can't be Howie. Well, I think didn't you write the story that you think Howie's is picking the final 53?
Well, Howie basically said he's picking the final 50.
Right.
Yeah. Now, how much say do you think Howie had in the no hitting anymore?
Again, I hope, but maybe he is a general manager, wherever his title is now. Right. So maybe he says to Doug after the injury day Friday, "Hey, Doug, maybe we should back off a little bit." And I think if Peterson, I'm hoping here. I think that happens everywhere. I think Ted Thompson talks to Mike McCarthy after practice in Green Bay. I think Ozzie Newsome talks to John Harbaugh in Baltimore about different things. But I'm hoping Howie suggests things, but if Doug says, no, hey, Howie, listen, I know guys got hurt today. It happens. It's football. I'm not going to stop hitting. This is what I do. And I hope he doesn't just say, okay, Howie, no hitting. Howie doesn't want to hit.
I hope. We all know how that goes down, though. I mean, right? If Howie says he doesn't want any more hitting, I think then there's no more hitting. I don't think Doug has the pull yet to override a Howie decision.
I don't think Howie should be making those. I think Howie should make suggestions, not decisions when it comes to things like that.
No, I know, but I'm saying I think at the end of the day, let's just say, and we're kind of dealing in hypotheticals now, although in reality it's basically what happened with Chip and Howie the past 3 years. But let's just say Doug and Howie don't agree on something, right? I mean, Howie's winning that battle, right? I mean, if Howie says, man, I really don't think you should hit anymore.
Right.
And then they keep hitting, and then Ertz goes down or whatever, right? And then Howie, look, man, you got to stop hitting. And Doug says, no, this is what I do. This is how I run stuff. I mean, don't you think Howie goes, that's real cute, Doug, but
Stop hitting. Yeah. If Howie really believes, yeah, you're probably right. But let me ask. Well, then where does the line get drawn? What if after? All right.
I think until Howie's gone, I think this is.
Well, no. I mean, no. But I meant where's the line drawn in? Like, so let's say they play a game. They play whoever, the Bears, and
Right.
they lose whatever for whatever reason. And Howie says to Doug, "Listen, I think we need to run the ball more. You're not running the ball enough." I mean, does Howie start calling the plays now too?
Look, I think Howie can do whatever he wants. I mean, again, there's two. Look, I'm not saying I'm not saying what I think should happen. Like, I agree. I don't think and I'm not painting Howie's power hungry. I just think that's.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you're right. I am to a certain degree. But like, do you disagree? I mean, don't you think it's his team?
I want to disagree. I want to say no, Elliot. You're wrong. There's no way. But knowing the two guys,
that's not what you think.
Personalities, you might be right. And if that's the case, that's bad.
And I'll say one more thing before we wrap up. They have the game on Thursday to get back to the offensive line. Now, how Matt Tobin plays hops right up to the front of things you're looking at.
Sure.
I mean, it might be number one, honestly. I guess you can maybe say, I'll be interested in just how the team looks in general, how they, how sloppy they're going to be and stuff. But I think Matt Tobin, to me now, is number one in terms of what you watch on Thursday, because he could potentially be the Jason Peters replacement this year.
And, and God forbid, and I'm not wishing this on anyone, but I don't even know who Tampa's right defensive end is, who's their, but they have a pretty good front four if I remember correctly. What if Tobin blows, and Bradford gets hurt, or he'll be out by Wednesday. But what I'm saying, like first series, whoever Tampa's going to have their starters out there the first series, he blows by Tobin like guys did all last year, and knocks Bradford out.
I mean, I think this is something all year we'll be talking about like, if this guy goes down, they're screwed because they're paper thin. You know what I mean? Like all year we'll be saying, oh, well, the defense has been good, but Malcolm Jenkins is out, and they have to move to Chris Maragos. I mean, that's who's starting on Thursday in place of Jenkins, Chris Maragos.
But that has to happen. That's just the way your team is. They didn't fill every hole. So yes, Maragos is their third best safety, so he's going to play in place of their best safety.
Right.
Michael Kendricks is out, so Najee Good's going to start. Najee.
I just think this team's thinner than other teams in the league.
Oh, I agree. But the point I'm trying to make is they have no choice. Najee Good is their next best line. Do you think Matt Tobin is their sixth best lineman?
No.
I don't think anybody thinks that except
I would put Dennis Kelly out there before I would put Matt Tobin. But I mean,
Lane on the left. Whoever I put, they'd be on the right side, and Lane would be on the left side protecting my.
Agreed. No, I agree with that 100%.
You can get by with a so right tackle. The Giants, they had a bad year, but they had Marshall Newhouse, who's not a very good player, at right tackle all year. But they had their number one pick at left tackle. I mean, left tackle is very important. Yeah. I don't want Matt Tobin. And again, Matt Tobin's a nice kid, and maybe he'll go out there and play greatest of his life. But I just don't want people to think I hate Matt Tobin. He's a nice kid. He's not a starting left tackle in the NFL. He's just not.
No.
But he's going to be Thursday night, and according to the head coach, if during the season Peters goes down, which I kind of think is inevitable,
definitely going to happen.
That's just going in.
Right.
Wow.
Well, I think we've officially killed all optimism that Merrill brought to the show.
No, I didn't want to, but you made it. All right, we're wrapping it up here. Thanks for listening to episode 42 of the No-Huddle Show. I'm Mark Eckel. Elliot, thanks for coming on with us. I want to big thank you to Merrill Reese. And I guess we'll be back next week. Joe will be back, and I can just go back to being a bad guy.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you later.
All right, take care.